Radio check, radio check. I've got an ad break, I can't tell. Hopefully I'm nice and clear for everyone who is currently watching. But we got 3 seconds. If I can test my audio, then we can get going. Radio check. We got 3 seconds. If I can test my audio, then we can get going. Radio check. Ooh. We got 3 seconds. If I can test my audio. Let's turn that down so there isn't a constant echo. Ooh. Let's do this. Beautiful. All right. That's all sorted. Microphone isn't the greatest thing of all time, but it is better than my headset, so we will take it. Let's turn that quality down so we can just focus on the Twitch chat. And now we can get introductions underway. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Season 10 for Race Spec, and welcome to a new beginning for the 1-0. Welcome to double digits for the first time in Race Spec. My name is Jamie Perry. You can call me JPM13 or just JP for that matter, and I am joined in the commentary box by the one and only Wayne Morris. Wayne, how are you?
Really good, JP. Delighted to join you here this evening for my first appearance on the microphone at Race Spec, and just delighted to be here on the season's 10th round. Looking forward to calling here around Catalonia in Spain.
Yeah,
See, Apollo Pepsi's got a set of wets on. He's gone out in a set of wets on a dry track. Has Apollo Pepsi there in the AlphaTauri.
Yeah, absolutely. Just getting some telemetry up for you lovely people watching at home. But yeah, this is looking exciting. The grid is looking exciting. It's looking competitive through the entire field. Wet compound tyres currently equipped to Apollo Pepsi. You also have Ven in the Williams at the moment, currently in P10. And a few other drivers slowly but surely making their way out for qualifying here for round 1 for Season 10. Speaking of drivers to keep an eye out, it will be Williams of not Funema, but actually Ven in P10. He will be the first one on a fast lap. Wayne Morris, would you like to take us away?
So yes, Ven gets that DRS wing open as he heads down towards turn 1 of this 14-turn track here at Catalonia in Spain. A very tricky left-right as he closes the DRS, swings it around to the right and then back to the left through this traction zone of turn 3. As he now heads towards turn 4, and of course he set the lighting bird purple there. Alfa Romeo just getting out of the way. Ven is here and set the fastest lap, of course, in this Williams as he comes through this middle section now of sector 2. Just going past the timing. Ven, a bit of traffic on the way, but Haas has jumped out of Ven's way. All new drivers, of course, for myself on the grid. I've never watched Ven go around before. So, and just speaking of go around, he gets the front right tire on the curb there, and has unfortunately spoiled his lap, and he'll be back in the pits and not setting that first lap time at all. Oh, he's going to go around and finish it anyway. He'll still pick up the fastest lap time, but will be Prezzo F1. It goes across the line first. It looks like Prezzo's just starting his lap.
I would assume it would probably be Apollo Pepsi in the wets who would be next, but our actual 2 other drivers that would follow Ven up to the line have actually invalidated on their times here in qualifying, so they won't get another opportunity to show for the time being. They'll rather come into the pit lane, or in the case for Apollo Pepsi, and what also looks to be Prezzo will go once again. But if we go to the Haas of Prezzo behind, yeah, just across the timeline there, but actually have a look at the Williams of Fananana. I don't know how to say that, but I'm going to assume something on the lines of that. Currently a 1:11.538, and a nice improvement compared to some of the other drivers who set down a time before. Blake Stevenson in the Ferrari sets down a 1:11.4 1:34.57 and shows why he is one of the more competitive drivers on this grid and does set it roughly by 1/10 of a second quicker. As we continue through the field, looks like there's an Aston Martin of KJR on the intermediates up to the line, however, will be setting down time of a 1:15.843. P3 on the board, and looks like the Haas of Preso, no, it will be the Haas of Vargas de Marwan, who now starts his fast lap. Also looks like the Alfa Romeo of Clean Break goes P3 with a 1:11.788, not too shabby from the Alfa Romeo. Apollo Pepsi goes spinning in the second sector, and the AlphaTauri of Combined YT now starts his fast lap as qualifying is well and truly underway. 13 minutes left in the session.
And Combined YT just about to close that D or S wing as he heads down into turn 1, 2, and then onto this long sweeping right-hander of turn 3. Getting the power down again as he heads down for turn 4. And then, of course, onto 5, and a tricky section here. And he's also combines. I've just noticed he's also on the wet tire. So it's a full qualifying here, is it? Seems that we're in Q1 here in Race Spec. So do the guys do a full qualifying set?
I must admit, I'm unaware. I'm taking assumptions from different leagues. I'm going to assume it's short qualifying, especially seeing that we had an 18-minute long Q1 session, but I also don't know how long Q1 normally is. It may be just 18 minutes. So I do apologize if I say there is a pole sitter and then it ends up being just the pole sitter for Q1, but I'm sure we can roll along with it. And if someone in the Twitch chat would like to point out to me if it is full qualifying, as I do apologize for my dogs barking in the background, and it is short quali as Ven does specify in the Twitch chat, so I do apologize. Someone we should probably go on board with is Matt Plevy. He's actually gone purple in the first sector with a 21.590. Really nice improvements compared to some of the other first sectors that we've seen so far through Catalunya, up the hill towards turn 13, I believe, as a continuing rocking through the third and final sector, down the hill, lower elevation before fully flat to the floor. Doesn't need to lift at any point. DRS activates. It's a 1:11.242. He actually took purple in the first and actually did not improve in the second or third, but just being able to manage with that first sector, managed to take P1. Seb Spicer still holding on to the purple in the second sector, with the 20 currently setting down a fast lap. It's an outlap, actually.
Yeah, we were just talking about Levi Tiger Pants before the race, and what a mouthful. Let's hope he's not in that Visa Cash Red Bull racing app car next year. But he's just heading into Sector 1 and Turn 1, 2, and then onto that sweeping right-hander of Turn 3. Let's see what kind of time he puts down here in Sector 1. So it's not a purple sector, but by no means not a fast sector. A slight hindrance there from the Haas. I think it could have been Steely, but not exactly certain which Haas that was. But it was a big wide Haas in the way of this Red Bull, and looks like Levi Tiger Pants is going to do his best to set up these lighting times, and it's a 50.6 as he finishes sector 2 up onto this really tricky right-hander coming to the end before he approaches turn 13 of 14, and he's invalidated there and pulled off and in the pits. It's unfortunate there for Levi Tiger Pants.
Oh, Eagle in the Alpines already set down a time of a 1:11.652. Looks like he was 31 seconds down on his time, but he was saving some battery, so I wonder if he is going to go once again on 2-lap old soft compound tyres. It's going to be intriguing if he's got the fuel and actually can use that battery that he saved up on that fast lap that he was previously on towards his advantage as he goes up the hill towards turn 4 and up to turn 5 and 6 out of the exit out 3 there. Purple in the first sector, actually, 700s up on his time, but it's actually only Purple purple in the game. As I look to the right of me towards the telemetry, the Alpine has only gone green in the first sector. However, improvements nevertheless. The Alpine continuing through into the second sector, once again up through the hill, needs to avoid the yellow sausage curb, does a fantastic job making sure to stick onto the left-hand side of the track before sweeping over, making sure to switch to the outside and on to the inside, which then becomes the outside towards the next corner, which is, you could consider, a long winding hairpin before once again applying throttle. 5th, 6th, does not reach it, back down to 4th gear, downshifts down, and now 4th again as the Alpine now uses that momentum out of back into the pit lane. AlphaTauri right behind him, does seem like Apollo Pepsi about to set down his time. We're into the third sector, 1:11.272, P4 on the board, and no purple sectors, but a nice green lap overall.
Yeah, I'm just on board here with T-Mac. T-Mac's just about come into Sector 2. T-Mac just about to come to the end of Sector 2. Let's see what kind of time he can do. So it's a 50.4, so slightly faster than the previous lap we were on with Levi Tiger Pants. But T-Mac now into this really tricky section now as he gets that car just positioned right as he comes around turn 13 and then onto 14, the final turn of the track, across the DRS line, gets that wing open, heads down, and that's a P6 for the big T-Mac there, and it's a pretty decent lap time for his first banker lap of this qualifying session.
Yeah, said he got purple in the second sector, but he actually only managed a 28.913, which is only a green lap. Though competitive, still much slower than a lot of other drivers above them. Actually, someone who's gone purple in the first sector is the Aston Martin, what I believe is down in P17, but that wouldn't make sense. It may be KJR, and it is KJR, 2.9 seconds up on his time. I believe he may be running number 17, which is what my telemetry was referring to. But whatever the case may be, purple in the first sector, 28.826 in the second, which is just green. The Aston enters into the final corner with DRS now active, up to the line to 1:11.501, and only P8 by the end of it. So it looked like there was going to be a bit more out of that car for KJR, but at the very end of it, only a 1:11.501. Blake Stevenson's actually fallen down to P7. That Ferrari not being able to uphold what looked to be quite a competitive lap time with Matt Plevy with a 1:11.242. And actually pushing at the moment as well, currently entering into the third sector, rotating through up to the hill. Do you want to finish off this lap time, Wayne?
Who are we on there? Sorry?
Ferrari P1.
Ferrari P1, Matt Plevy, as he heads towards the line. Let's see what he can do. He's unfortunately up on his time and hasn't improved, just 4 thousandths of a second out on improving. So looks like a very solid banker Matt Plevy has done on his first attempt and hasn't been able to improve there on his second. He looks like a Williams, is it? No.
What I can say as well, Wayne, I understand you won't be here for the race itself, but I've actually got some interesting news about the weather. I've had a quick look at my forecast using Race Dash live telemetry that you can get on iOS. No plugging actually happening here. But if you have a look at the race for next session, near around 15 to 30 minutes into the race, we could be seeing some thunder, some heavy rain.
Ooh,
I know.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's on my forecast here on my data. It's telling me that you've got an 11% chance of rain at the moment, but it doesn't look forward into the race. So that's a very good app you've got running there. I'll have to check that one out. What's it called again?
Race Dash. And what I can tell you on top of the telemetry continuing to provide me information, the game gives me the information to tell me that combined YT and the AlphaTauri finishes P14 with a 1:11.876. Still a very decent time on the board, P14. I'm sure there's plenty of improvement with 4 minutes 30 left on the clock. Eagle apparently goes purple in the first sector. I can actually tell you right now that is not the case, but hey-ho, we'll still stick on board with the Alpine, currently in P11 at the moment. He's gone green though, 21.524. He's found good improvement in the first sector, now continuing a nice fast right-hander as the Alpine now goes down in elevation with DRS to help him out, the helping hand you could call it, the assistant aerodynamic help, whatever the case may be. Purple in the second sector is not really purple in the second sector, it's a 28.715, it's still green however, so improvements both in the first and second sector, and the Alpine currently running in P11 should see a very nice improvement up to near the top, I'd say, and it's going to be P5 with a 111.288, and actually, you know what? I haven't spoken about this. Have a look from P5 to P1, that gap. 288, 272, 265, 251, 242. I mean, all these times are separated by roughly 1/100th of a second.
Yeah, it's a very close racing here at Race Spec for the opening round of this season 10. I can't believe how many different divisions Race Spec has going. I didn't realize it was such a big league.
Well, they continue to surprise us all, and they surprised everyone with what would look to be a very competitive grid for Season 10, and it has continued to be that way. My question, though, however, with Matt Plevy continuing to set down a P1 time of a 111.242, can anyone finally dethrone the prancing horse up into P1, and maybe Apollo Pepsi can do that, maybe Seb Spicer. They've shown improvements. Seb Spicer held on to purple in the second sector for a long period of time before it eventually being taken away, but the real question is, can anyone take away the throne to Matt Plevy, or Matt Plevy be able to improve enough to keep P1 in his possession? That is a question we shall be able to answer very, very soon as more and more drivers continue to make their way out onto that lap with 2 minutes and 20 left on the clock.
And at that, JP, unfortunately, I'm going to have to jump out, and sorry I'm not able to stay a little bit longer. Just haven't got my invite yet to get into my other race.
No, of course.
Best of luck in your call, and have a good one.
Yeah, go enjoy DRS as well, ladies and gentlemen. Wayne Morris will need to leave the stream, as he just mentioned before, so now it will only be me on the commentary box, but it just means things have gotten a little bit more spicy out on track, with Alpine of Eagle currently in P5, 2-lap-old tyres. Seems like he's still pushing, but will probably struggle to find improvements. 1 minute 40 left on the clock here in a short quali session, 18 minutes in total. Apollo Pepsi gets us going in one of the first fast laps here in the session, with Seb Spicer just behind him, currently going through turns 2 and 3. Let's switch back to Apollo Pepsi, currently in P4, and let's see how he may do on his lap time. As he makes it up to P1, he's gone a 21.5 flat at the moment, still managing a very decent improvement through the first sector. Through the second sector, however, just doesn't seem like he's finding the time at the very moment, but as he rotates through the fast right-hander, may be able to do it going down the hill with DRS now active to be of assistance to him. 1.5 tenths, nearly 2 tenths improvement for Apollo Pepsi in the AlphaTauri, and he actually has gone purple in the second sector, so he could find some very, very good position gained here for the AlphaTauri. Once again, down in elevation towards the final corner, rotates at 7th gear, flat to the floor, all the way to the timing line. It's going to be a 111.109. AlphaTauri does take pole position in a fantastic style with a fantastic lap time. Purple in the second and purple in the third. That is how you do it. AlphaTauri now does dethrone the prancing horses. Seb Spicer only improves to P2, a 111.121. Still only changed by 2/100ths of a second. Really close in the moment. KJR and the Aston Martin, 111.232. Once again separated by 1/100th or 10/100ths of a second, sorry. Matt Plevy on P4 at the moment, the man who had provisional pole, looking to try and fight it back. KJR now retires, finishes in P3, still a fantastic position for the Aston Martin to finish in. Mercedes currently P5 in the second sector, making his way up the hill. 6th gear, does not need to lift at any point, does not need to downshift at any point. Let's switch over to the Ferrari of what I can assume would be Matt Plevy, but it isn't. It's his teammate. It's Blake Stevenson, another person who's shown so much competitive driving throughout his season. 111.355, only P9 on the board, no further improvements from that point onwards. Big T-Mac in the gravel, that's it for the Alpine. What about the Williams? Looks like Ven may not find any further improvements. ACW up to the line, it's a 111 flat. Wow. ACW now does take provisional pole. Fantastic effort. Did not see that one coming. My God. Really, really good job from him. Matt Plevy up to the line. Only manages P5 on the board. 1:11.234. The Ferrari who had provisional pole in an instant. With a click of your fingers, the Ferrari does get it taken away from him. P5 on the board. It seems for most of the field it has come to an end. Levi Tiger Pants across the line. 2.6 seconds down. Only manages a 1:13. Looks like that is everyone rather across the line or back into the pit lane or retired from the session. So now we can say what a 1:11.088 and just nearly a 1/10 improvement. It is going to be ACW on pole position, and what an incredible qualifying session and what an incredible pole lap. My God. And I can confirm he did take purple in the first, second, and third. 21.398, 28.591, and a 20.849 sees a full purple lap of a 1:11.088. As I mentioned before, Apollo Pepsi does finish in P2 and P3, not too far behind of Seb Spicer, so it should still be a very, very close one through the entire field. But what I can say with absolute confidence is that qualifying gets us started here in Season 10, and what a qualifying to do so. And yeah, wow. Bit shell-shocked. That was quite a qualifying there, and now we get to see some of the timings there. ACW on pole position, P1 in the Mercedes, 200ths down on that, Apollo Pepsi in the AlphaTauri, 300ths down on that was Seb Spicer in the Mercedes. So it's a Mercedes sandwich against the AlphaTauri in P2. As we continue down, you can see KJI in the Aston Martin, nearly a 10th down on P3, but I mean, that's just a 10th. All these gaps are still so insignificant to one another. It really shows you how competitive this grid is in Tier 1 for the Open Series here for Season 10, and what a way to get us started, and we have plenty more action ahead of us. What we can say is we can now take a chill pill for a moment. Relax, calm, because what we can say now is we have a race on our hands, ladies and gentlemen, and what a race we are expecting to undergo here at Spain, here at Barcelona, here in Catalunya. And with loading now complete, pit crews have one job and one job alone, and that is to do the best job they possibly can. Make sure they're stretched and warmed up and ready. Same for the drivers, making sure their strategies are as perfect as they can be. Everyone has their own role and job to complete and participate in, and we are moments away from 5 red lights to go out and racing to take place here in Spain. You can feel the tension in the air, and the drivers will need nerves of steel as all the waiting of Season 10 and pre-season has now come to an end. The grids have been finalised, announcements have come to an end. The only thing we have left to do is go racing. What I can tell you on the weather, if I get the opportunity to get another sneak peek at it, it did seem like we were going to get some rain on the horizon, but I'll make sure I can definitely get the exact details of that at a later point. The grid is looking close. The racing is looking competitive. The drivers are looking well and truly in a place of their own. Bags Liddell says, let's go car, and I agree with them. Let's go cars. For racing, 1 red light, 2 red light, 3 red light, and 5 red lights. The lights go out and it's pedal to metal here in Spain. Looks like it's a good getaway for ACW. Apollo Pepsi thinking about taking the inside line, trying to go wheel to wheel with the Mercedes team. But Seb Spicer now on the inside, now switches to the outside. Can he get late on the brake and make a move on the AlphaTauri in P2? 200 separating between in qualifying. Looks like Seb Spicer will need to back out of it in P3 is where he stays. But it is still looking very competitive through the field at the moment. Mercedes still in a P1, P3 position as racing well and truly is now underway here in Spain. Aston Martin, P4 of KJR, looking for a good run through on the Mercedes. Looks like he's going to send it down the inside. Does get late on the brake, just avoids the sausage curb. Stays where he is for the time being. As we continue further down, looks like Red Bull, Levi Tigerband, P7. Really nice start for him. Preso up to P15 is Fananana. Down to P16. Alfa Romeo making a huge mistake. Steely nearly losing position out to Preso, but because of him defending off on the racing line, no further position could be made. Ven up to P17. Levi Tiger Pants up to P6 as Eagle now needs to back out of it with Ferrari on the inside line. Has to back out of it, however, as he nearly makes contact with the rear diffuser of the French constructor. Blake Stevenson, wow, I'm really stumbling my words here, but Blake Stevenson currently in P8, continuing to rotate through the final corner here, gets nice momentum, good slipstream on the Alpine, onto the pit straight, just needs to try and bring that momentum together into one final push towards turn 1. Apollo Pepsi up to P1 now, the AlphaTauri a tenth and a half ahead of the rest of the field as ACW has to back out, and now down to P2 goes the Mercedes driver. Ferrari looking for the outside, needs to switch to the inside, continuing to rotate through the long winding right hand corner into the next corner, braking down to 4th gear, now rotates purple in the first sector, now puts his foot down, up to P7 goes Blake Stevenson in the Ferrari with Matt Plevy staying in P5 since grid start. But what I can tell you, this front row continuing to show a lot of competitiveness in this field and a lot of competition throughout the championship before we even have a provisional championship set in stone. Let's see how the reactions are currently going in the Twitch chat. Looks like KD said, go things on 4 wheels. Gorlock enjoys 4 wheels. All that matters is Gorlock is pleased. And absolutely agree, Gorlock should be pleased. And what I can tell you, pleased with the action is me and hopefully Gorlock watching in the Twitch chat as the Mercedes through the final corner tries to get the momentum necessary up to the line. And once again, another lap of racing now takes place, a 1:14.627. Looks like Blake Stevenson does finally take the purple lap for the session. DRS is now enabled, and this is probably a good call to have a look at some position changes. Looks like 3 position changes for Steely Bags Demarwin, 1 position gain for Wash Data. Looks like Apollo Pepsi P1 as well. So a few positions gained throughout the field. Looks like Blake Stevenson's up 2 as well, but for the most part seems to be all very clean, fair and stable throughout the pack. Fanana now down 6 positions. So Williams really struggling throughout the field as well. As we switch back to now tyres, you can see the different strategies that is on display. You can see soft compound runs being made for clean brakes, Steely and Fanana down in P18, which I can only assume for the Williams and Alfa Romeo drivers, they'd be going for a very large undercut strategy here in Spain and here in Catalunya, here in Barcelona for Season 10, Round 1, and it is still just looking so close between every single one last of these drivers. No one seeming to give up, no one seeming to make a single fault, and it seems everything continues to be nice and smooth on now the beginning of lap 4 of 33. The Aston Martin of KJR looks for the inside line, now going to use the momentum out of the exit of the fast right-hander, my apologies, as the Aston Martin late on the brake down to 4th gear, looks at the battle right in front, ACW and Apollo Pepsi continuing to battle away. Mercedes in P2 for the time being, but Aston Martin just waiting, seething at the teeth for an opportunity, switches to the outside, late on the brakes, purple in the first sector. Aston Martin continues to go wheel to wheel with the Mercedes of ACW. ACW not making sure to give any move up, and right now defending with everything he's got, but with the inside line currently being sent by the Aston Martin, can't get it covered for ACW, but now making sure to defend with everything he's got. Late on the brakes does go the Aston Martin. Now this gives an opportunity for the Mercedes of Seb Spicer to get back into the top 3 right now, using that momentum and making sure he does not need to tap a brake for 1 second. Now going down in elevation towards the next long sweeping left-hander, the Mercedes of Seb Spicer once again trying to bring himself closer, can't seem to do so. However, Aston Martin stays in P3, Mercedes still on the charge, and these gaps are continuing to be ignorant to one another. The racers, the drivers as you may want to call them, continuing to push the limits of one and other of every single one of them currently out on track. Those soft compound tyres being shown for an interesting strategy, potentially a mastermind strategy, something that will need to be answered at a later date. Apollo Pepsi now down to P2 as the Mercedes of ACW retakes the lead, but now AlphaTauri on the outside line makes sure to use the momentum out of the exit, puts down that throttle flat to the floor, pedal to the metal, all the way back up to P1. ACW thought about the inside line. Now KJR and the Aston Martin's going to take the advantage of being blocked for ACW against Apollo Pepsi to potentially make the move up to P2 again. This isn't the first time Aston Martin thought about making the move. Can't get it done, stays in P3 again, and now KJR is once again in a bit of a roadblock situation. Seb Seb Spicer in the same situation, who was in the top 3, can't seem to break through at the moment. KJR's been a brick wall against him. Looks like KJR has had the brick wall of ACW, who continues to roll around in P2. Matt Plevy has not really made much momentum, and it doesn't help that Blake Stevenson, the teammate to Matt Plevy, now up to P6 as Levi Tiger Pants now struggles in the Red Bull just a touch further. Now a tenth and a half down, becomes 3/10 as P7 now secured for the team from Milton Keynes, but Red Bull clearly on the way backwards then going forward. McLaren washed data currently 2.5, nearly 3/10 off the rest of the field ahead, but look at the gaps between every single one last of these drivers. There's only 2 people outside of DRS, and that is P17 and P18. The 2 Williams clearly on the disadvantage here on the grid so far. Aston Martin of KJR now on the inside line, rotates through the corner, sets it down, throttle at an all-time high. Now Mercedes trying to get it done, contact on the outside, switches to the inside. AlphaTauri trying to finally make his way into P3. Apollo Pepsi trying to give it everything he's got, looks for it down the inside, no, just decides to stick with it, currently in the podium positions. However, Seb Spicer once again down out of it, and the Mercedes down to P4 as ACW retakes the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix. And I must admit, I do need a drink for a quick minute, because action has been coming hot and fast, and it really is starting to show the absolute competitiveness of this grid here in Season 10 here in Race Spec. Well, now that we've had a moment to breathe and a moment to have a drink, it really does show the amount of action taking place. Alfa Romeo goes bottling into the barrier, has to join him, and Williams also in the fray of what looks to be a 15, 16 and 17 collision. Fanana actually may get a good opportunity to potentially come back. KJR now up to P1 through the exit of turn 1, and now ACW trying to trail behind. Clean break does retire, does look to be in the pit lane, however. But it does seem to be close at the same point, potentially on the concrete barrier near the entry of the pit lane. But we'll have to keep an eye out on that. The Mercedes of ACW currently 2.5 tenths, 3 tenths at that matter. And it does seem to be, for the most part, Mercedes just trying to stick on the right rear of the Aston Martin and try and look for another opportunity for a move for the lead to once again take place. The AlphaTauri of Apollo Pepsi currently 3.5 tenths off, and P3 is where he stands, but P3 maybe not where he wants to finish. Once again, I can keep going through position after position, driver after driver, but like I mentioned before, the competitiveness of this grid, the competition on display really does show you the fierceness of every single one last of these drivers, making sure they can give everything they've got out on track. Lap 7 of 33, and it's clear none of them want to give up at any point. We now have what looks to be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 drivers, all now not in the DRS zone. Technically 6 if you want to consider clean break, but he is out of this race and doesn't actually have real much of an opportunity at all to open DRS. Whatever the case may be, Matt Plevy still in P5, still in the position that he started in, and still looking to try and trail himself closer to the rest of the field at the moment. But with Seb Spicer and above, it just seems to be a nice tight-knit packed group, making sure that they are knit and need to try and say it correctly. I forgot the saying, whoops, whatever the case may be. AlphaTauri of Apollo Pepsi still in P3, 2.5 tenths off, and trying to keep himself nice and close to the rest of the field. But nice and close, maybe not the way AlphaTauri may be going, with Seb Spicer looking up the inside before backing out of it. DRS is now open for the Mercedes, as it is for many other drivers. AlphaTauri staying in P3 and defending as he has for many, many laps onwards. KJR was the one that was defending before once again getting the opening against ACW. So now the Aston Martin no longer needing to worry as a barricade, but now needing to act as a barricade. 7-10 separating P1 and P2, and the Aston Martin clearly showing a lot more, I guess, strength over the rest of the field at this current time, with 7.5 tenths currently separating that at this very moment. Wash data currently in the McLaren looks like roughly 2, maybe 1/10 of a second. McLaren down the inside, P6 is where he stands. DRS shuts. Red Bull does not get an opportunity. Once again looks for the rotation through the corner. McLaren once again tries to defend. still looks to try and get it done and dusted. Red Bull's it's actually the Mercedes of Seb Spicer's run off the track, run well and truly onto the white line. I'll have a look if there is any type of warning for corner cutting, but for Seb Spicer, it does seem to be fully fine on his occasion. Washed Out is still defending off the Red Bull of Levi Tiger Pants in P7. P6 still secured for the British constructor, and I guess the factory currently located in Woking, England. But whatever the case may be, it is still a very hard defense for the McLaren, and it does seem for the rest of the field very, very smooth and just keeping everything on track for the time being. Preso down in P17, 3.5 seconds off the track with 2 lap-old mediums for both Ven and Preso, clearly representing that they have come into the pit lane at least once in this race so far. KJR currently in P1 at the moment, going into the final corner, rotating through 6th gear up to 7th now with ACW once again behind Apollo Pepsi with DRS, followed by Ferrari with DRS, followed by Seb Spicer. But let's go back over to Matt Plevy because he made it up to P4. He's now up to P3, but can he get the P3 secured through the next couple of corners where we normally can see a driver getting a nice switchback of dreams? Right now, Apollo Pepsi does not have that momentum, and Matt Plevy has made 2 positions in the last couple of laps, and it's clear that the Ferrari no longer has the patience to wait and has the patience to try and make moves as quickly as possible. Struggling to speak a touch, and I do apologize, but as I continued to mention before, if we have a look at the weather, it does seem like roughly 24 degrees. There potentially could be some rain in roughly 30 minutes time. It's a question if we continue racing in 30 minutes, but if it is the case where there could be, that should spice up the field a little bit. But if we are not racing in 30 minutes, then unfortunate for the drivers who may have wanted some rain. Whatever the case may be, Seb Spicer up to P4, AlphaTauri on the inside line, rotating, pushing that AlphaTauri to its limits, but cannot seem to get it done. Stays in P5, but once again just waiting, hoping, looking at any margin of error from that Mercedes for him to finally secure and keep P4, and most likely trying to get back into that top 3. Right now it does seem to be an all-out war for that top 3 position. The podium is looking very hot at the moment and up for grabs by any driver who wishes to try and take it away. Blake Stevenson in P8 at the moment, rotating through up the hill, just winding through the right-hand corner, but it looks like Red Bull not allowing a nice slipstream or tow towards Blake Stevenson, staying in P8 with Grid Drapes currently in P9. The McLaren trying to bring him closer now on the inside line. Does he go late on the brakes? No. Stays where he is, just avoiding the sausage curb, but too close on the inside line, making sure to perfect the apex with Steely in the Alfa Romeo, now boxing down to P14 with 0 lap-old medium compounds. He now comes out on the mediums from what was, I believe, hard compound tyres, or potentially, no, it was the Alfa Romeo, so it would have been soft compound tyres for Steely, but now down to P14 for that period of time, as it does seem to be all quite smooth at the moment. Ferrari of Matt Plevy currently in P3, 2.5 now, nearly 3/10 off the Mercedes of ACW. Aston Martin of KJR continuing to lead out by roughly 5.5 tenths, but this is where we can start to beg the question, will Mercedes be able to get the momentum through onto the pit straight to try and come back at him? Right now it is click, shoot, boom, but what I can tell you is it's not click, shoot, boom for the lead of the race. ACW needs to try and back out of it, allows himself to stay ahead of Matt Plevy, who tried using the momentum of DRS and make a move up to P2, but couldn't use that momentum simply because ACW was also using the momentum of DRS at the same point, and clearly aerodynamics playing a big factor here, as now we get a yellow flag. Looks like Alpine of TTD, wow, TTV Big T-Mac. That is quite a tongue twister, I must admit, but the Alpine stays, or now down to P13 as a few drivers overtakes them, and clearly some disparity throughout the Alpine garage, as now Big T-Mac needs to try and scratch and claw through the field all over again. It does seem for the most part, however, all very clean, fair, subtle for the most part, and I say subtle because right now there hasn't been anything of great significance in terms of moves. I mean, yes, we've seen a few moves here and there for the lead of the race. I mean, I'm sure, KJR's led it, ACW's led it, Matt Plevy's yet to, Seb Spicer's yet to, and so is Apollo Pepsi. But my point being is the grid is so competitive, the drivers are so close to one another, that of course having a lead change, I guess, isn't of the greatest surprise. So I guess if, let's say, the Mercedes of ACW overtakes him, it's just a battle trying to fight away. And I mean, if we continue this battle all the way until maybe the final lap of racing, that's when things really start to spice up a bit more, because there's less time for a move to be made. On lap 13 of 33, there's 20 laps for you to make a single position. You know, there's less excitement. It's just about making sure you secure position, hold on to it, defend or fight, whatever you must do to try and secure it, and then hold on to it. Simply how to put it. But yeah, Mercedes currently of ACW in P2, 3.5, nearly 4/10 off KJR in the Aston Martin, but everything seems to be just running very smooth and slow, you could say. Lap 13 to 33, not much has happened out on track apart from I guess majority of overtakes coming from the front of the field, and continuing to be switches throughout those top 3 to top 5 positions, with other drivers just seeming to try and stick with one another, trying to work as a team to bring themselves closer, though I don't know how effective it's currently working with the Haas of Vargas de Marwin and the Alpine of TTV Big T-Mac trying to do so, clearly not working in their favour. As we now start lap 14 of 33, still not over that halfway mark, but Ferrari of DRS, and same with ACW. Aston Martin's actually at the biggest disadvantage at the moment, but going into turn 1, looks like Mercedes is going to be unhelped by any point here, but Ferrari, Matt Plevy, just trying to bring himself closer, near the rear diffuser, touches for a time being before letting go a touch. Now 1.5, nearly 2/10 separating them, and it really is just constantly a back and forth between the front of the field to the mid part of this field, and the rest just continuing, like I said, scratch and claw to try and keep gaps at a minimum. Either way, Mercedes of ACW, that's a big one. One of the race leaders, one of the top competitors in this race at the moment, now down to P11 as he loses the rear end. Vargas de Marwin could get a nice opportunity up in P12 to try and bring himself closer. TTV Big T-Mac in the Alpine currently in P13, but it just doesn't seem like ACW is going to have the greatest rest of this race at the moment. To have a spin from what was P2 on the board, not really the best way to go about it, and unfortunately for ACW, that is a big disadvantage ahead of him. Nearly 3 wide through the exit of the next right-hander. It does seem like Blake Stevenson up to P6, McLaren Grid Jokes P7, with what looks to be Matt Plevy now into the pit lane. The Scuderia trying to stick on top of things, but clearly P10 is where he'll now stand, and most likely lower than that, as pit lane will now suck away positions down as he now switches over tyres from what I can assume is now soft compounds. Matt Plevy's gone for soft compound tyres. I mean, listen, I'm not a gambling man, but if I were to guess if Matt Plevy's strategy was going to be efficient enough to, let's say, get back up into the top 3, I would assume that Ferrari would be struggling a touch, would be the only way to really look at things. But whatever the case may be, it's an interesting strategy call. We are on the C1, C2s, and C3, so we are on the hardest compound of tyres for the Pirelli range. But even with that being considered, I mean, those soft compound tyres can only last 15 laps of action. I mean, he's going to be cutting it close with puncture territory if he is going to go to the very end on those soft compounds. I mean, realistically, you'd have to, because if you box again on what would be a 2-stopper, then I guess you're going to find yourself near the end of the field. There is just no other way around it. For a lot of the field, they're still yet to come into the pit lane. It does seem to be just one after the other, just in a big formation of drivers, a big follow the leader, you could call it. Ferrari of Blake Stevenson, or Blicky on on Discord, just using DRS to stick with the McLaren, not make them overtake, as it is a DRS train at the moment throughout many different parts of the field. But a few more DRS trains coming to an end as gaps continue to slowly but surely increase, as tyre dead continues to increase at that same point. Wash Data currently in P4. The Red Bull Levi Tigerman's currently 4.5 still off him, but still P5 looking to try and get on the attack for McLaren. And should mention Wash Data, and let's have a look at the positions he's gained. 6 positions for the McLaren, and you have to rate the effort, because he did start lower down. Vargas de Marwin in P10, the Haas ups 8 positions, with people like ACW obviously having that spin out of the exit of the hairpin, seeing himself now down to not turn 12, but down to P12, and really struggling a touch. And we should probably activate the telemetry. My apologies. And it doesn't seem to have changed too much at this very point. It does look like most cases, apart from a few spins lower down, ACW, it hasn't changed a whole lot at the moment. The grid is staying quite the same. And as I mentioned, rain. Have a look at the sky, ladies and gentlemen. Getting a bit overcast, a bit cloudy, and I do apologize if my commentary is a bit messy and, to put it blank, shit, because it's not great. And I must admit, I agree with you if you feel the same way. I'm getting back into it. I've had a week off, and it's a slow process, but I will, get back to that point. So please give me some time to, I guess, readjust myself. ACW now getting fastest lap before Matt Plevy setting down a 13.423. Obviously, Matt Plevy on the Ferrari on fresh new soft compound tyres, and ACW on 2-lap-old medium compounds. But whatever the case may be, even though he switched tyres, he did still lose positions because of the spin he encountered. Let's have a look at the weather, because this overcast is looking a bit scary, a bit tricky. And what I can tell you, there is rain and thunder expected in the next 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. And it does seem to be getting more dark as time goes on. So with 15 minutes, I could only assume that we are going to be getting rain in this race, and that would really start to spice up the field. I also do apologize if I'm not sounding the most exciting. I am trying the best. Like I said, I'm just getting back into commentary, but I do promise next time round it should be a very exciting stream. Mercedes on the outside line. DRS now shuts the flap on the rear wing, allows them up to P12 as the Alfa Romeo of Steely on 6-lap-old medium compounds has nothing to fight back with. The Alpine of Eagle in P9 now down to P9 as combined YT was able to make the move on the inside line using DRS again, and it seems to be the main word we continue to use, DRS and momentum. It's clear that Spain, of all tracks, Barcelona, Catalunya, however you want to say, it's clear that momentum is everything around this circuit. It's about corner exits, it's about making sure you can get the run through into the next corner, because if you don't, moves can't be made, and it will just be a static position for you. Right now, the Red Bull of Levi Tigermans has done well to elevate himself up to P4, but Washtadder once again looking for that opportunity now through the very winding but fast right-hand corner. The McLaren once again using DRS to bring himself to the outside line. Will McLaren go to make a move? P4 now in the grip of the McLaren, and Levi Tigermans has to back out of it, with Red Bull now re-overtaking into P5, and not really re-overtaking in the correct way, but really re-overtaking backwards. Whatever the case may be, Levi Tigermans clearly struggling a touch on lap 19 of 33 with now DRS active. And remember when I mentioned rain potentially being there in the next maybe 5 to 10 minutes? Well, it's here. Rain has arrived, ladies and gentlemen. You can see it on the halo. You can see it throughout the sky. Rain has arrived. Looks like McLaren, Washtadder now down to P5. Levi Tigermans able to defend as hard as he can. Clearly struggling with those 18-lap-old medium compounds. Ferrari of Blake Stevenson right behind Grid Jokes in P6. Now using the prancing horses Ferrari power to try and make a move. Can't. Now wheel-to-wheel goes the Red Bull of Levi Tigermans and Washtadder. This battle continues to not go untouched, as right now continuing throughout the exit of the next corner. McLaren is back up to P4, up in elevation towards the hill, does lose the rear a touch, and now Red Bull trying to bring himself towards McLaren all over again. Once, like I said, just as I mentioned just before, rain has now decided to open the heavens here. The clouds have opened up and rain continues to pour, and it shall increase. I would only assume as right now in the next 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's going to keep getting worse and worse, ladies and gentlemen. The rain will increase. The rain will get worse, and it will be a switch in compounds by the end of this. So what I will assume is that these drivers are not deciding to come into the pit lane because they're aware that rain is deciding to come out. So they're going to wait until the track gets wet enough to eventually switch over. And now the Red Bull on the inside line, mediums would be dying out there, but yet they are going to wait. And McLaren now down the inside. Presso's made a mistake, and safety car is now deployed, ladies and gentlemen. The American constructor seems to have gone just a bit wide out of the exit of roughly turn 7 there, up towards the hill, and now it sees Haas out of this race. Those mediums can only really go about 20 laps here, so they'll be absolutely cooked, and you're correct about that one, Bags Liddell, but I can actually give you the exact amount of laps they can go, and it is 20 laps. You've actually put it right on the dot. So no, you're correct. You're absolutely right. These tyres would be struggling a lot. It looks like Steely's actually gone onto the intermediates. He's making sure to box onto the wet compound tyres early, because it's clear that rain will increase under safety car conditions, and I can tell you, using the weather forecast, it is only going to increase after that point. Right now, if I switch back over, you can see for the next 5 to 10 minutes, it's still going to continue to be rain. And in the next 30 minutes, apparently it's going to be heavy rain. So it's going to get really harsh very, very quickly. And it's clear that for a lot of drivers, this is where strategy starts to play a large role. Clearly here in Spain, clearly here in Barcelona, Circuit de Catalunya, it may be a perfect time to come into the pit lane, mainly because of what Bags Liddell just mentioned, but then on top of the fact that intermediate conditions are clearly starting to arise here, and it's clear if you come into the pit lane, you're almost getting an undercut on the weather that will be eventually arriving at our front doors. But looks like it does seem to be intermediates for pretty much everyone on the grid, and it will be intermediates. It seems it's going to be a full green grid, as you may want to call them, whatever the case may be. Lap 20 of 33, there's the safety car obviously now deployed, and it's actually worked perfectly into pretty much everyone's hands. Strategy is now taken out of the equation due to safety car, and it just means that you're going to go onto the intermediates, switch over, and then just kind of wait for the rain to arrive. And right now we're roughly 5 minutes out from heavier rain to be showing up on our front door, as I've mentioned before, with Fernanda currently in P16, 31 seconds off the rest of the grid. This is almost a lifeline for the Williams as well, who clearly was struggling a touch. Now gets a good opportunity to try and make their way back up to the back of Ven in P15 and try and make a bit more of a redemption for himself, as he has been not really shown the best of races right now. And Ven is actually a main driver out on track, while Fernanda, I believe, is reserving for Williams. So we will give him some leniency, as it is only round 1 for Season 10, and he is obviously playing a reserve driver role. And it's actually Fernanda who's going to stay out and not come onto the intermediates. And I do wish he could see the, I guess, information I am looking at, because right now it does not seem like the correct idea to. It's the same for Vargas Damar, and he's gone on to soft compound tyres. It's very clear. I mean, you can see by the track that it's getting worse, and right now I can see by the forecast we've now got increased amount of rain. It said there was only going to be maybe 20 minutes of rain. It's now going to be 45 minutes of rain, ladies and gentlemen. We're finishing this race in wet conditions. It's as simple as that. Okay, Baxadell saying he's been ghosted this whole time, so I don't think he's in the lobby. I see. Alright. Got it. I don't have them added, so if I did, I would have added them back, but I do apologise. So, yeah. It does seem, though, for the most car, Apollo Pepsi actually picking up a corner cut running wide, and it looks like car 26 doing the same. That is in position 14, so it actually is Ven right there making a small little corner cut running wide warning there, but as things start to settle down, it is good to be back on the comms box. I will say, obviously, you'll probably hear a difference with my voice, as I do have a new microphone. I'm sorry if it isn't fully clear, or if it sounds just not perfect. I'm still making adjustments, so it will sound great in, I guess, a longer period of time. But for the time being, it's good, so, yeah. But, yeah. Safety cars now deployed, action now slows down. Like I said, it's good to be back, and I'm sure the drivers are glad to be back, as obviously this is round 1 of Season 10. Obviously the season starts all over again, and what a race we've had so far. Lap 22 of 33, we've got 11 laps left in racing, and you'd only have to assume strategy is probably coming to an end here, because now that the intermediates are out, and I guess the degradation is so low because of the amount of tread that is run on the tyres, you can only assume that we are going to finish on these tyres unless there is another safety car, and you can only assume that right now KGR is probably in the best position for the race lead and race win. I mean, he will hold on to the lead under safety car conditions, but I'm speaking outside of safety car conditions. Right now he probably has the best opportunity of holding on to it, and spray is starting to be another big thing as rain continues to settle itself down here at Barcelona, and right now it continues to cover the entire track as safety car is in this lap. Right now, everyone will be lining up with one another, and what I can tell you for the next 45 minutes, like I mentioned, it will be wet conditions. Maybe not full wet, and maybe not too difficult on how heavy it will be, but right now, lightning strike representing in the next 15 minutes, we could get some heavy rain as Aston Martin now does pull away 4th, now 5th gear, and Aston Martin has put down that throttle flat to the floor, pedal to metal. We go back to green flag running here in Spain. Mercedes down to P2 at the moment. Seb Spicer 6 tenths away from from Aston Martin. AlphaTauri of Apollo Pepsi, 7.5 tenths away, currently in P3 for the time being. Looks like the Red Bull of Levi Tigermans rotating through the first chicane at turns 1, 2, and now the rotating right-hander of turn 4. It looks like McLaren right behind as well. Grid Joke staying in P5, but it does seem to be untouched for most of the field. Looks like Wash Data now down the inside. P7 secured for the McLaren driver. Eagle P8. Looks like Big TTV, Big T-Mac, also P10. It looks like Mercedes of ACW now P11 as he's trying to make some good momentum through the field. And as we continue through, does look to be just a slow touch near the back of the field. Williams once again struggling again, and I don't mean this in a condescending way. I am simply pointing out the obvious that Williams are clearly down on their luck, and they're clearly not showing everything they can really put on display. And P15 and pretty much second last and last on most of these sessions. Matt Plevy now P12 as he's rotating through on the outside line. Slight contact to the right hand side pod of the Mercedes. ACW does hold on to P11 as Matt Plevy trying to use those intermediates to force a move against the Mercedes, but it does seem to be all ends well between those two at the moment. Rain has started to make this track even worse as the Ferrari of Blake Stevenson now uses the momentum out of the final corner, uses the slipstream in tow, using simply ERS, because now DRS will be deactivated. There will be no rear wing that would open even after 3 laps of action, so now it is simply without the word DRS, momentum, and this is what Spain will now represent, using that momentum to try and make a move. It was DRS and momentum, now it is simply momentum, using the intermediates now to try and make that possible. But I guess the possibilities are only such thing that could come about as Wash Data continues to be P7, trying to bring himself closer to Blake Stevenson, but it just doesn't seem to be banging away at the moment. It is just continuing to be in a locked position, you could say. And the Aston Martin of KJR, 9.5, now 1 second off Seb Spicer and the Mercedes. Apollo Pepsi, 4.5 off, and it looks like Mercedes of ACW. No, it's going to be the Mercedes of maybe KJR, but that would make no sense. So it could have just been an Alfa Romeo and ACW passing by, but a mistake clearly by a driver or two, but near the end of the field most likely. Either way, racing is well and truly back underway, and rain is well and truly here to stay till the end of the session. Right now, looks like thunderstorms in the next 10 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. And no, not actual thunderstorms, but what that represents. If I say thunder, if I say lightning bolt, the symbol represents heavy rain is on the way. So do expect much heavier rain. Do expect potential more pit stops to be put into effect. But with only what looks to be 8 laps remaining in this race, there isn't a whole lot of time to make that strategy call to go over to the blue compound tyre. So we'll have to wait and see if that does eventually happen, or if it will just be something that is going to stall out into nothing. McLaren of Grid Jokes once again in P5, trying to get some momentum, right? I mean, I say momentum, I've said momentum a lot, but it really is simply using momentum to make a move. You know, especially at a place like Barcelona, the only thing you can do is use the momentum through the exit of the corner to make a move, or 2 or 3 or none at that point. You know, you can keep going back and forth constantly, but it simply is. Gaps are never going to die out, especially when you have 2 competitive drivers or an entire field of competitive drivers, because of the fact that they all are gaining so much momentum out of a corner at the same time. It will just never die out enough where anyone could get the opportunity to potentially make a move. So Apollo Pepsi in the AlphaTauri, 3-second time penalty now against him, and actually the first driver to pick up a penalty. It's 18 drivers on the grid in the first, so I do feel bad for P3 on the grid. And of course it is P3 who picks one up, just seemingly struggling on the intermediates, maybe going a bit wide on a few corners, and now the white line catching him out one too many times. And the AlphaTauri right now in P3, but for how much longer, with 1.1 seconds separating P4 to the AlphaTauri at this current time. And like I mentioned before, you know, intermediates, the constant momentum, the constant closeness between each and every driver. A safety car is deployed, ladies and gentlemen. Looks to be Red Bull potentially out. It is Ven in the Williams, who is out of this race. So something's happened with Fernando's teammate, where clearly they've gone wide out of the exit of turn 3. And this has now seen the end of the road for the Williams, as another safety car is now deployed. And this should most likely become a nice close battle near the end of this rainy conditions, and will most likely increase into heavier conditions. Safety cars deployed with only what is roughly 7 laps remaining. This is going to get really spicy very quickly. And like I said, I do apologize if there's a lack of excitement or a lack of shock or whatever. I'm trying to get back into commentary. Alright, I am still on a hiatus, so I'm trying my best, I really am, and I do hope the viewers are enjoying the stream as it continues to come along, but yeah, I'm just simply trying my best here. Either way, safety car is deployed on lap 26 of 33, and I guess for a lot of drivers, it's kind of what's the decision you want to take. A lot of drivers are actually deciding they're going to switch over to new intermediates, but I don't know if that's the right call to make realistically. I mean, take someone who's on fresh new 0 lap old intermediates. I don't know. It just, with only lap 27 of 33, with only 6 laps remaining, when you have someone on wet compound tyres or in fresh new intermediate compound tyres, even if it does get into those conditions, maybe it's just a little bit too late to use those tyres effectively. I mean, maybe you could make a position or two, but now you've lost out on positions because of people overtaking you. So I don't know. It goes both ways. I think it splits down pretty 50-50 for strategy, how you may want to take it. But you're right. It is blue tyre, Bags Liddell. You are correct. And I will explain to anyone that may not be aware, in the next 5 to 10 minutes, and technically that is roughly right now, it was going to increase to heavy wet conditions. So, yeah, that gives you a bit more information on that. And I can also explain that in the next 30 minutes is when the rain would roughly come to an end. But it's going to continue to rain well and truly after the race comes to an end. So, how do you feel about the blue tyre? How do I feel about the blue tyre? I feel that maybe it's the correct choice if rain does decide to become a bit more fierce out on track. But, yeah. And may as well open this up to the rest of the field as well. Hashtag AskJP is now open in the Twitch chat. Don't ask me anything that's immature, otherwise I will just ignore you. And try just, any questions you may want to answer in a more general sense, please be my guest. But yeah, right now KGR continues to lead this race, and the Aston Martin's done a fantastic job continuing to lead this race without needing to make much of a change, I would believe. I mean, Aston Martin has switched to intermediates. He was on those slick compounds when he made the original overtake, and KJR's continued to hold on to that lead to the very end. But right now, Captain Jack's saying many different things about radio things, so recreating it. Lap 28 of 33, right now it does seem to be 5 laps remaining in this race. Safety car is deployed, as well and truly known. Fananana trying to catch up to the back of the field at the moment. Williams will now do it out of the exit of the well and truly winding right-hand corner, and right now the rest of the field trying to catch back up. But yeah, it is definitely slowed down. It is definitely decided to cool down a little bit, and I need to have another drink for a moment, but yeah. Looks like Websy saying hashtag AskJP favourite livery for 2024. Oh, it's tough. That's tough. You know what? Mercedes, when I first saw it, I must admit, I was not a big fan of it. But then the more I started to have a look at the livery, the more it kind of popped up on my FYP on TikTok or on my For You on Instagram or whatever, the more I started to enjoy the livery. I think it's actually quite a nice looking livery. I think the silver fades in quite well, and it gives a nice tribute to previous liveries in different generations of the Mercedes, which is nice. Red Bull's the same. No one gives a shit about Red Bull. I think the best livery on the grid, it probably would be Visa Cash App Racing Bulls Formula 1 team, or just VCarb. I think that's the best livery on the grid, which is funny because their name is so long and it just makes it horrendous compared to their livery. But KJR will be leading us away here on Safety Car Restart. The Aston Martin has one job in mind, and that is to simply lead away and win this race. And the Aston Martin now does pull the trigger. The Mercedes out of the exit of the final corner now needs to try and chase down the Aston Martin. The hunter becomes a hunted, and it's been this way for many laps onwards, upwards upwards of maybe 15 to 20 of this case. But Aston Martin has been well and truly in control of this race, and KJR has left the session in a big shock of events when we thought that Aston Martin was actually going to end up winning this race. Now he's left the session, same for Eagle, and Mercedes now will take the lead of the race. Safety cars redeployed, ladies and gentlemen. For some reason, looks like Eagle actually, he crashed out of the exit of turn 3, and the Alpines now caused another safety car to deploy, and Seb Spice has been able to take away the Aston Martin's lead of KJR. So now KJR will be trying to fight as hard as he can to retake that lead. But not really the best turn of events for the Aston Martin, because right now I would have said with absolute no doubt in my mind that KJR had a really good opportunity of winning this race. But now another safety car deployed off the restart of the previous safety car. Lap 29 of 33. We are moments away at the moment. And Websy's 100% correct by this matter as well. I mean, if KJR did not have a safety car, then then it would have been over and done and dusted for him. But Captain Jack says oof, and yeah, oof. Stretching for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you like the sound of the new microphone. I haven't really had a whole lot of time to have a good listen to it, but yeah, Seb Spicer now takes the lead of the race as KJR falls down to P2. The Aston Martin obviously getting some type of internet issue or disconnecting from the EA servers, which has now caused KJR to fall down to P2. And he's lucky that safety car did deploy, as we've now well and truly summed up, because without it, it is very clear to everyone here that, I mean, he would have been well and truly down in P14 by the end of this race. Sounds like JP, not Mike. Ask JP, thoughts on carbs? What, as in, like, carbohydrates? I don't know. I sometimes eat carbs. I don't know. Websy, hashtag Ask JP, favourite fast food place? Oh, don't put me on the spot like that. I guess I'm speaking for Western Australia here, which Websy can actually be of help towards because he does live in Perth. But I would say Henley Brook. That's my favourite restaurant, Henley Brook. For anyone in WA who wants to go check that out, there you go, Henley Brook. Nice little lovely restaurant, and makes fantastic pizzas. Really, really nice place. But Seb Spicer, currently P1 at the moment. Lap 30 of 33. Camjack says he's even luckier the AI didn't box him or some stupid Jeff-approved strategy. You're right, though. You are correct. If KJR, who obviously is now being controlled by an AI due to a disconnection, if he did come into the pit lane, that's another severe incident that could have taken place for the Aston Martin. But looks like Jack has said chimkin treat to, I guess, improve on my English and clearly his perfectly written word, chimkin. Love that. Either way, lap 31 of 33. This will be the final lap of safety car being out here, and we shall get a drink. I must admit, I am sweating my ass off at the moment. It is roughly at the moment, from what I've seen, 41.5 degrees here in, actually 44 degrees overall today, but right now, as we speak, it's 41.5 degrees here in WA, and I am not having a great time in the box because it is so hot. Do not take that out of context, that's what she said. Anyway, Seb Spicer currently leads us away in P1, KJR P2, P3 Apollo Pepsi. That's your top three, but do not count out any other further driver. Ferrari P7 and 8, Matt Plevy and Blake Stevenson still in this midfield fight at the moment. Ferrari did seem to have a bit more pace behind them, but clearly not working in their favour at the moment. The prancing horses have not gone well around Spain and may not finish well around Spain, but it could still be anyone's game. Combined YT, P6, he's not had the greatest race of all time, but he's shown consistency, and here in Season 10, consistency can get you a long way. McLaren, Grid Jokes, P5. He actually had a nickname he was going to be run before being shut down by Matt Plevy, because no nicknames allowed, and I totally agree with that. Either way, Red Bull of Levi Tigerman's also in P4 at the moment. Red Bull really showing their consistency. That's another really consistent driver. I mean, I would have actually believed Levi wasn't going to do as well this race, but he really has put on a show at the moment, and Red Bull proving everyone that any doubt is fully unneeded and unnecessary, because P4 is where he stands and P4 could be where he finishes, or a podium position, ladies and gentlemen. 41 degrees here in WA. It continues to rain, and rain heavy here in Spain. Barcelona has 2 laps left of racing. Yellow flag will go away. Safety car will go away. Ladies and gentlemen, here for round 1 for season 10 to get us started around Barcelona, to come to an end for Barcelona. Safety car restart is moments away. Green flag is moments away, and Mercedes in full control. He does pull the trigger up flat to the floor before breaking down to 5th gear around the final corner, rotates, making sure not to lose the rear. It's green flag running here in Spain. Looks like Apollo Pepsi immediately up to P2. It's 3 wide down the pitch straight. Looks like Levi Tiger Pants on the inside line. Looks like goes late on the brakes. Hassan back out of it. Aston Martin. KJR's already down to P4. Clearly the AI now on the disadvantage. Matt Plevy P6 at the moment. Alpha Tauri of Combined YT making it through the field. KJR is almost a barricade for some of these drivers. The Ferrari of Matt Plevy now on the inside line looking for P4 on the grid. McLaren has nothing he can do. Down the inside goes the Ferrari, giving it everything he's got. Matt Plevy's not going to leave a single inch left on the track, and it's P4 now set in stone. T-Mac now P5, the Alpine on the outside line, pushing, hustling, making sure that Ferrari goes further than it ever has gone before, but nothing can be done, staying where he is, and it is only P5. Matt Plevy stays in P4 for the time being, but that racing is going to continue underway. Out of the exit of the fast right-hander becomes slow because of the rain. We are in full wet, harsh conditions. Down the inside goes the Alpine, late on the brakes, 3rd gear, 80 kilometers per hour, tries to get the momentum through, and he can. T-Mac up to P4. Fantastic effort from the French constructor on the penultimate lap of racing. Ferrari rotates through the corner. AlphaTauri on Combined YT trying to bring himself closer. It's clear racing is still well and truly underway, and racing is all full well and truly ahead. Alpine, T-Mac trying to fight back for the podium. Levi Tigermans needs to give everything he's got. He's not got a whole lot left to offer. Down the inside goes the Alpine. Late on the brakes, T-Mac rotates it through. Red Bull's down. Alpine's up. Podium secured for T-Mac. Fantastic effort. Matt Plevy needs to try and use the momentum of that battle towards him. Right now, Ferrari sees himself in P5. Wash data down to P10. Mercedes on the outside line. ACW makes contact with the AlphaTauri. McLaren gets also spun round. This allows Wash data through up to P9 on the wet compound tyres. It's clear. It's better, it's faster, it's got more grip. He's putting everything he's got into it. Right now, McLaren P9. Can he secure more points than it was before? Levi Tigerpans up to P3. T-Mac now down to P5. Blake Stevenson out of the exit of the fast right-hander up to P4. Looks like prancing horses are on the absolute attack at the moment. Pardon me. Blake Stevenson now also just bringing himself closer to the rear diffuser of the Red Bull. Outside line, late on the brakes, 3rd gear, 120 kilometers per hour. Looks like Ferrari's going to try and go for it. Goes wide. Levi Tigermans has nothing. Seb Spicer gave it everything. And the Mercedes around the final corner takes the lead, takes the win. Seb Spicer wins the Spanish Grand Prix. Levi Tigermans finishes in P2. Blake Stevenson P3, and my microphone needs a small cleanup. I think there's a bit too much spit on there at the moment, but whew, what a race. Camjack says, JP, bro, take a breath or you'll actually pass out. Yeah, I think I've gotten close before, so, you know, not the first time, but thanks. I guess it's a backhanded compliment. Either way, Mercedes lifting the trophy in P1. It was no one else but Seb Spicer who had full control over that race, and I do apologize for some of the racing that just I couldn't seem to allow for much excitement for, but I was glad to be able to commentate round 1 here and continue to commentate here for the rest of Tier 1 for Race Spec Esports. Right now, it is the winner of, at least provisional winner, is Seb Spicer P1, Levi Tigerman's P2 in the Red Bull, P3 is Blake Stevenson in the Ferrari, and of course I will now run through the grid for any steward or any FIA person who would like to have a good close look at that. Also run through Race Director for anyone that wants a helping hand with that, and a lot of intermediates actually being boxed onto. People like Ven and Eagle only actually boxing once onto the intermediates. Plenty of warnings and a few 3 seconds near the end of the race, and a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane for one. Pardon me. But I think for most cases it did seem to run quite smoothly, and what a race. I need a breather. Right, well, we're not done quite yet. And I do say not quite yet because I'm sure we have interviews on the horizon, so we'll quickly chuck around the phone and make sure if we can try and get it into a party, and if not, then we'll just get it sorted on Discord, and then we'll run it through the phone onto the microphone. Obviously, the new microphone has fantastic quality, so I do not expect any less quality to come through if I ran it through my phone, but we'll quickly message the podium runners to see if they want an interview, and see if we can get some nice action out there at the moment. Okay, I need to breathe for a moment. Alright. I'd consider a lot of you lucky because I'm currently on a 2-week hiatus, and obviously I needed to help out with Race Spec. We couldn't get comms sorted, so I was happy to do so. But my god. Right. Let's see. So right now we are just getting the podium runners to hopefully join into the VC so we can have a nice little chat with them. We're going to be joining on my phone, and we'll just be running it through the phone onto Discord, but trust me, it will sound just lovely and perfect and fine, so don't be too annoyed if it sounds a bit off. It shouldn't even need to sound that way, it should sound fine. We'll try and see if we can get some people to join in and have a nice little chat with them. We're just waiting on the podium finishers to get in, which would obviously be Levi Tiger Pants in the Red Bull. It would be obviously Mercedes finisher, and one more to follow in that footsteps as well, but obviously that won't matter if we can't actually get some interviews in, so we are just waiting to see if that would be the case. Looks like we may get Blake Stevenson in for some interviews. Obviously, Ferrari finished there. Blake, I hate to do this to you, but sometimes after commentating I do have a small mind blank. What position did you finish again? I feel really bad. Third, there we go. Sorry. Alright, it's all coming back to me again. There you go. Well, firstly, congratulations on third place. What a great finish for yourself. Obviously, it did seem to be quite competitive near the front of the field, and it did seem like maybe you weren't going to actually finish on a podium. It did seem like you were, P7, P6 off safety car restart, with your teammate right with you, Matt Plevy. But you seemed to be able to fight through the field and really get a really great position by the end of the race.
Yeah, I was very surprised with the result. I think what really got me the result was pitting onto a new set of inters after the second safety car, I'm pretty sure it was. And then, yeah, it got me the podium, I guess.
Absolutely. Let's obviously talk about the rain, the intermediate conditions. It did seem like it did worsen towards wets, but I guess no one ended up switching over. I think there was 1 or 2 drivers who did do so, but obviously, my point being is, was there any, I guess, unexpectations for that? What was it? Something you were expecting? Was it something that was kind of planned in the strategy? What was kind of going through your head when rain arrived?
I don't know. Once it arrived, I felt like it was pit for inters, I guess. I didn't have much pace after the first safety car on the inters, but like I said, after the second safety car in the wet conditions, I pitted and I had pressure tires by like around 20%, so that gave me the edge on everyone.
Right. Well, I mean, you absolutely got the maximum out of it, so congratulations on a fantastic P3. Now, let me have a quick look at the calendar. Shouldn't take me too long, but if I do have a look, it does seem to be Canada, which would be up next in the fight for you for Season 10, and obviously taking up P3 is P3 in the championship, so obviously a nice defense is now awaiting you, but obviously Canada's up next. How confident are you feeling going into Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve?
Not confident at all with like my worst track, so
right.
I'm expecting to finish near the bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hopefully best of luck for you either way, and hopefully some luck can be on your side.
Thank you.
Right, well, we should probably move on to P2 on the board. Let's go over to Levi Tiger Pants in the Red Bull. Tell me, mate, how are you?
Oh, good. I was happy with that result.
Yeah, should be happy. That's P2 on the board and a great way to start Season 10 here. Run me through your race. How do you think it went for you?
Good. Going from 7th to 2nd was nice, but it was mostly just about braking early, trying not to rear end anyone, which I almost did to Matt a few times, but yeah, just not making mistakes and spinning was the main goal.
Right, absolutely. It did seem like you had a lot of consistency for most of the race. I mean, it didn't seem like you were able to move too much upwards or downwards, but you stayed in P4 for most of the race. Tell me, was it just a touch too hard to try and make your way through the field, or was it just kind of making sure you had a good lap time to follow and then trying to stick with your strategy?
Yeah, it was probably more I was a couple tenths off the guys at the front, so I was just trying to stay in the grain. But yeah, Seb's pretty fast, so...
Yeah, absolutely, and you continue to have that consistency through intermediates as well, so fantastic effort for you, who obviously now picks up P2 off that final safety car restart, which obviously I'm sure was quite hectic. How'd you avoid and make sure you could try and keep it as clean as possible to get that P2 secure?
Yeah, well, there was a couple of guys behind on fresh inters, and it was very difficult to keep them behind. I don't know, I did lose a position to T-Mac, but he made a mistake, so it was just trying not to spin in those very wet conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations on what has been a very successful P2 and a start here in Season 10, Round 1 here in Spain. But just before we finish up questions for you, how confident are you feeling going into Canada next week?
Oh, not confident. I suck at Canada. It's probably one of my worst tracks. Like Blake said, for him, it's the walls are pretty close and track limits can hurt.
Yeah, well, either way, congratulations on P2 this week, and hopefully some more luck can be on your side, just like Blake Stevenson, who's still in the interview room joining us. But yeah, hopefully some luck can be on your side.
Yep, thanks. I hope so.
And to finish off some interviews here, let's go to our P1 finisher. Seb, how are you, man?
Doing pretty well now.
Of course you would be doing well. You finished in a lovely final and easy P1 on the grid. But I'll tell you what, it seemed like you had pretty good control over most of the field near the end of that race. Obviously, the safety car restart being in your advantage. Tell me, run me through your race.
Yeah, the race was trucking along well. I probably didn't quite have the pace to sort of run on my own with those front lot, but just sticking in the DRS just allows me to hang on, and you just had to build towards that wet period. And then a couple incidents happened in front of me which fell into my hand, but unlucky for everyone or for other drivers. But no, I knew obviously when I got to the wet period my car struggled to warm up for the first couple of laps, But as I started to get comfortable a bit more into the wet conditions, she's just become a bit of a beauty to drive.
Yeah, absolutely. And it did seem like you seemed pretty comfortable in those intermediate conditions, so fair play to you. I mean, was it your plan to kind of have your setup suited towards those wet conditions?
Not necessarily. My setup was relatively already high on the wings. I just probably lowered a couple clicks on the front wing for that wet period to stop it from snapping a bit in all those high-speed corners, but other than that, the car was a peach.
Right, absolutely. So it's just kind of fallen into your hands perfectly, realistically speaking. But to be honest, I mean, you had quite a fair race. It seemed to go quite well in your favour for most of it. So that there isn't too many other questions I'll ask you. But obviously, round 2, we've got Canada. P1 only lasts so long. So going into next round, how confident are you feeling compared to some of the less confident that surround me?
I'll wait until I jump in and do a couple laps around Canada, but other than that, Canada's an amazing track. Just something I've always loved the track, driving around it, so we'll jump on, do a couple laps, see if it likes me this week. We'll go from there.
So our race winner has shown a bit more confidence than some of the other podium finishers, but fair play to you, and congratulations on a fantastic win here in round 1 for Season 10.
Thank you.
Well, be back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you there, we get to finally hear some podium interviews come to a close and some good words from all drivers from all sides. But podium interviews. That's my voice. Whoopsie doopsie. It's because I turned my phone volume up, so I do apologise because I was running the audio through my microphone, but it did seem like my microphone was clear for the most part, so we will take it. Anyway, enough rambling on, enough talking on. What a fantastic race win by Seb, or the Aston Martin, or sorry, the Mercedes. My God, I'm messing up teams now. Great win from Mercedes. Good job from Seb. Obviously getting it done and dusted, and good to get some interviews in. But yeah, sorry about the audio at the very, very end there. Either way, thank you all for tuning in. I do apologise if I was messy at points in this stream. Like I said, I am having a 2-week hiatus, and I was just going to pop in to try and help out Race Spec. So, yeah, I do promise I'll try and improve here and there, but yeah, just tried my best where I could. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone.